Superannuation balances have taken a hit after the share market dropped more than 4% yesterday, and that takes losses so far to 10% this year. Paul Fowler keeps a pretty close eye on these things. He is a financial planner at the Fowlers Group. Paul, I'm just wondering, is your phone running hot at the moment?
Yeah, look, we've had a couple of inquiries, obviously, of people a bit worried about what's going on in the world. I guess from our perspective with our clients, we have done a lot of education over time to say that moments like these happen. It's just a different reason. It's happened in the past. It'll happen again. So it's just a matter of managing our way through this and essentially, if possible, try not to panic. And I know when you see your balances go down, it's not a good feeling at all. But really the hardest thing to do in times like these is actually sit on your hands and do nothing. Yeah. Oh,
so my strategy's working well then.
Absolutely.
I tell my dad, who's a financial planner, I wouldn't know what the stock market's doing. I'm quite an ignorant investor because I've just used it during my lifetime as a forced savings plan. I just put it in, don't take it out, and don't really pay a lot of attention. But
you're on the right track when the markets are doing what they're doing right now.
You don't want to see.
Yeah, exactly.
But I guess the point is that I've got, a bit of time on my side, but if I was staring down the barrel of retirement in the next year or two, I mean, how worrying is that scenario?
Yeah, look, I think people approaching retirement, I just want to start I know it's hard, but don't panic, and I will revert back to that. What I wouldn't do, a couple of things I wouldn't do. I wouldn't be making sort of investment decisions about where your money's invested right now and making changes now while markets are doing what they do. The worst thing you can do is essentially take money out of your investments that have exposure to the share markets and put them into cash, because essentially what you're doing is crystallising losses that are very hard to get back.
So you can't win in that scenario.
You can't win in that scenario, and it's a hard thing to do to get your mindset there, and just write it out. To be honest, in this period of time when things settle down, once things have settled down, then it's probably worthwhile talking to someone and reevaluate, I guess, your tolerance to risk going forward into retirement. And it may be in a year or two that you delay retirement for another period of time. You do have that option. But over time, over the last 120, 130 years, we've seen stock markets go backwards plenty of times. We've had plenty of crashes, and every single time they've recovered. We don't know when they will, unfortunately, so we don't have a crystal ball and can't tell you that.
And therein lies the rub. I mean, nobody knows the answer as to what the next move will be, whether it's by the United States president or leaders around other trading partners in the world. I mean, you watch these things closely. What are you hearing? What kind of reverberations are being felt in financial markets in Australia?
Look, it's pretty early stages here at the moment, Charlie. I know that the media is putting it all over the news in regards to, worst falls in the day, worst falls we've seen since 2020, all this sort of stuff. And that sort of adds a bit to the anxiety and panic of individuals. My advice to a lot of people there is turn the news off.
Hang on.
Sorry. No, turn the news.
Not when we're having engaging...
Not the ABC at 7:40 in the morning, though.
No, not when we're having engaging, useful conversations.
You don't want to create more anxiety around that. People that are actually in retirement phase that are drawing their income, I would suggest to them to maybe, if you need to take capital out, reconsider that. Taking money out of markets that are going backwards, if you can. I think people in retirement phase in Australia, most people's superannuation portfolios have about 50 to 60% of the money in, say, equities or property, and 40 to 50% of their money actually in cash and fixed interest. So for those people in retirement, it's probably wise, if you need money, to try and take it out of the cash and fixed interest sort of your portfolios, as opposed to the shares, and just let them float along over the period of time till markets recover, because they will. So there's a few little strategies there to do, as opposed to selling down the equities now is certainly not a good thing to do.
Stay the course. You're hearing from Paul Fowler from the Fowler Group, financial planning and advice that he's giving to his clients every day, and is imparting some of that information to you here on The Breakfast Show. who is most affected in this scenario at the moment, Paul?
I would say the people that are most affected would be people probably in that are going to retire today. So if you honestly, if it's just a timing thing and you are retiring today or yesterday, then obviously you're going to be affected because your accounts have dropped at the time that you need to start drawing money. So if you're considering doing that over the next week or 2 weeks, I'd probably try and hold off or utilise money that you have in savings first in the bank before you start transitioning to
buy
get money out of your
time.
super. Yeah, buy yourself a bit of time. And as I said, people who are already in pension phase, ideally you want to try and get your pension income to come out of the defensive parts of the portfolio, or if you need to access capital, try and take it out of the defensive part if possible.
What about those that are still building their nest egg, Paul Fowler, and maybe, not me, but maybe have a high risk appetite? Is there anyone out there at the moment just buying up, thinking, well, it's going to rebound, this is a good time to invest?
Charlie, I'm not giving financial advice here.
No, everything's general in nature.
But look, at the end of the day, for people that are accumulating wealth, it's sale time. You know what I mean? You're buying the same shares for a cheaper price today than what they were 4 days ago. So for accumulators, I wouldn't panic at all. Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. It's time to start buying to a certain extent because things are cheaper. And at some point, the markets will turn because they haven't not yet. So, yeah, depending where you are and what phase you're in life, there are a couple of different approaches you definitely have to take, yeah.
All right. But in the meantime, the conversations that you're having today are just keep calm and carry on.
Just keep calm and try not to make investment decisions based on the emotion that's flying around at the moment. I know that sounds very basic, but in reality, that's the most important thing to do.
And keep listening to ABC Local Radio for thoughtful, useful conversations like this one. Paul Fowler, thanks for dropping by.
Thank you.